Hello, everybody. Boy, did we luck into a very cool show today. Welcome to Trek on Tuesday. Hello, Aaron, and everybody. I want to introduce you to two of our 15 2023 Report to the Nation delegates. You are looking at Sophia Schell and James Harris. Well, you were looking at them. They are Eagle Scouts. I believe they'll be back any second. Mm-hmm. We just lost connection, but could you believe what was that view right behind them? I mean,
we got to see for just a second them standing on the streets of Washington, D.C., where they are doing the Report to the Nation. For those of you who aren't familiar, the Report to the Nation is an annual BSA tradition where a delegation of scouts go up to Washington, D.C. to present a report to the nation for Congress. And that's how the BSA's charter works. We go up there and we tell them what we've been doing over the last year or so. And that's what keeps the BSA chartered by Congress. We hope to have them back at any minute.
Yes.
Isn't that funny, Gina? It was working fine.
It was. We've been talking to them.
Yeah, we've been chatting back and forth for 15 minutes. And as soon as we go live.
So we usually send like a delegation of youth to DC for this event. There's a history to Report to the Nation that we will be talking about in a little bit. Hopefully we're going to get to talk with these two Eagle Scouts for a bit. Again, they are two of 15 scouts who are there in DC this week. Some of you at home may have heard of like a Report to the State, or you may have participated in something like that. This is similar to those kinds of events, but It's national. So if you have questions for our delegates, we're going to have them hopefully for about 10 minutes here at the start of the show. Yes, Rob says we broke the internet. That's right. So keep breaking the internet with all your questions for these guys. We have about 10 minutes to ask them all the good stuff. Aaron also, I don't want to delay. Hey, how are you? Can you guys hear us?
Yes.
Welcome back. We're so glad to see you again.
Well, in case we lose you, I want to give you a chance to introduce yourselves. Sophia, you go first.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sophie Schell. I'm an Eagle Scout from Troop 248 right here in Washington, D.C., and the current Emmanuel-Equipment Lodge Chief with the Order of the Arrow.
Hello, everyone. My name is James Harris. I'm an Eagle Scout from Troop 1441 based out of White Oak, Maryland.
Very cool. So this is kind of a across the nation contingent that we've got up in DC right now. Is that right?
Most of the scouts here are from the DC area, the National Capital Area Council. So we have scouts from DC, Maryland, and Virginia in the contingent.
And tell us just a little bit about what you guys are doing up there. You're about, I think, halfway through your week. Sophia, let's start with you. Tell me what you guys have been doing, how it's been going.
Well, we started this morning off bright and early with a meeting with the Clerk of the House and the Secretary of the Senate, a breakfast meeting where we presented them with the official Report to the Nation, which will now be entered into the report for Congress. So we've officially completed our reach harder, done our duty for this year. And then we moved into a meeting with Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia, who's a huge supporter of scouting, the scouting movement and the Summit Bechtel Reserve in West Virginia specifically. And now we're at the Rayburn office building, meeting with some other Congress people.
Very cool. So question for both of you guys, both Sophie and James. Who's the coolest person that you've met so far? Anybody that you've been like starstruck about?
So the coolest one I got to meet was probably, thinking about it now, Senator Pete.
Maybe Sessions?
Sessions. I don't know what I ranked on that, but that was a really interesting experience because he's also an Eagle Scout and he's on the board for the National Eagle Scout Association. So that's a really cool honor. It was amazing to get to meet him.
Yeah, he's very passionate about scouting. That's a good recall.
Yeah, but both of you guys are Eagle Scouts and you are joined. So it's important to remind folks that this is just two of the 15 delegates. There are 13 other ones up there. There's Cub Scouts, right? There's Sea Scouts, there's Venturers, there's representatives from the whole plane of scouting existence. James, what has it been like to be there to represent scouting for such an important event? How does it feel to you to be up there doing this?
Could you repeat the question so I pass by?
Yeah, no problem. How does it feel to be up there? This is Report to the Nation is such a cool, fun, kind of important event, right? What has it been like for you, James, to experience it?
Nerve-wracking, but amazing. It's like that feeling when you like going into a game. It's like you're a little nervous, but you're really, really excited about it. And it's honestly just it's been a really amazing experience, and it's been the experience of a lifetime. And this is something I'm going to remember when, you know, I'm a lot older, sitting in my bed or wherever it is, maybe on a beach, who knows, but just sitting down, think back and be like, that was an amazing experience. I got to do the report to the nation. It's going to be something that's really amazing. It's also amazing to be part of the select few that get to do that, get to have this opportunity within the scouting program.
Yeah, you really are a part of history. Speaking of being a part of history, we got to remind you guys that Sophie is also an Eagle Scout. Sophie, I have a question for you. I see that you guys were tying the friendship knot, I think, on your first day. Had you tied that before?
I actually had not tied the friendship knot. I'd seen people walking around with next to Tucson with the friendship knot and always wondered how to tie it. I'm also enrolled in Sea Scouting, but that's not a knot that we had really learned in our curriculum yet. So the first day we learned how to tie it on Sunday when we were going through our orientation and everything.
It's a pretty cool knot, and I feel like it's gonna, like, it serves you well in meeting international scouts as well. I saw this picture of you before I got to meet you virtually, and I was struck by it. I think it's pretty cool. Were you able to meet some new people? I know you guys are kind of all from the same area or like a handful of states, but I'm assuming that you met a lot of new faces.
When we walked in on Sunday, it was just a whole crowd of new people. I didn't recognize. I mean, I knew some of the people from council office, but all of the scouts there were completely new to me. I'd never met any of them. So it was fun. They threw us in a circle, and we started learning each other's names right away. And I think we've gotten pretty close over the past couple days.
I actually knew one of the other scouts, Audrey Perez, before because we both worked at a Goshen Scout Reservation. So it was nice to see an old face, but it was also really amazing to get to meet all these new people like Sophie and, you know, become friends with them. Hopefully we can do this again, or not do this again, but we get together after this just to spend time and talk about our experience.
Yeah, there's something about getting a lot of scouts and scout-related folks in the same room. A lot of interest, a lot of things in common. I imagine you guys all get along pretty well. James, maybe you could tell us a little bit about the process leading up to this. How did you get yourself in this position? How did that work? And you know, what did you have to do to be prepared to be here?
So the first process was a written essay. So we had to submit a resume along with an essay. So I submitted mine. I talked a bit about my Eagle project. I talked about my time at school, the positions I have it within my school's JROTC program, as well as a lot of other things about sports and just my time within scouting, especially film on Scout Ranch and working in Goshen. And then after that, there was an interview process, which I was really nervous to go into because when they told us it was going to be on camera, I'm a little bit worried about going on camera and a little afraid of the camera, but I guess they got my good side and I got selected. So after that, it was just once we got here, just getting to know the delegates and just having as much fun as possible.
Pretty cool. And I think that this week has some other excitement in store. Am I right in that you guys are going to be, you both actually personally are going to get to go to the White House tomorrow?
Yes, we are. I think there's 7 of us going tomorrow morning to be part of the official state visit and welcome ceremony for the Prime Minister of South Korea.
That's pretty big. Maybe you can show them the friendship knot.
Very excited. Show the friendship knot?
No, I said maybe you can show him the friendship knot.
And one of the things that you guys did, I think a couple of days ago, were both of you at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier? Tell us about what you saw there and what that experience was like.
So the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier was a really humbling and solemn experience, especially, you know, we were lucky enough to get a tour of the barracks, and they told us about the traditions, and then specifically one thing that really stuck out to me was our tour guide, who was I'm forgetting his name, but he was a sergeant within the Army. He told us that the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, they try to do everything with perfection, and that it's the least they can do to honor those who gave their life for our country, and that's the smallest thing they could really do for them. So that was just something that was really, really, really meaningful to me. And as well as that, within my school's cadet corps, I'm actually in the color guard, so it was kind of like going to like the holy grail of like color guards and getting to talk to them and take pictures with them and learn about their history and the traditions of the old guard and the team guard.
Very cool. We're excited to keep looking through these pictures. We got to give a shout out to our friend Broytek, who's both behind the camera in these still photos and in the video. Just give one more big thank you to both Eagle Scout James Harris and Eagle Scout Sophie Shell. Guys, thanks for tuning in and have a great rest of your week. Thanks for doing what you're doing.
Yeah, enjoy the rest of your week, guys. You guys are doing a great job representing scouting. thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it. And hey, maybe I'll be in touch by the end of the week to get an update on how everything went. All right.
All right, sounds great. Thank you.
All right.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.
Bye.
Aaron,
Very
we
cool.
lucked out on that. I mean,
That
I
was,
woke up this morning thinking we were just going to look at pictures, which would have been cool, but getting to
So-
talk to actual delegates. We've never
Yes,
done that before.
I know. So as Gina said, Michael Roytek, our professional photographer, was the person holding the camera there. He's with them. He's taken a lot of really good photos. We've Brian behind the scenes. Brian put some of them up on the screen already. He'll probably be showing some more here as we continue to discuss report to the nation. Gina, you might be wondering. We use these words: report to the nation. We present report to the nation to Congress, members of Congress. But what actually is report to the nation? What's in it? Well, I'm here to tell you, report to the nation is basically a summary of what the Boy Scouts of America is, what our mission statement is, and what we have accomplished in the last year in terms of number of merit badges earned, a number of Cub Scout adventures earned, things like that. Maybe I'll just go through a few highlights of it real quick, Gina, if I may.
Yeah, I was going to add in, Aaron, and just say, one time it was described to me in a way that stuck in my head, but a lot of people are familiar with like the annual reports that come out of their companies. We'll think of this as kind of like an annual report from a civic stance, and it's about what, the BSA is contributing to the community, in not in the way that maybe you think of like a corporation, but as the, service organization that we are.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It mentions that 580,194 boys and girls are currently enrolled in Cub Scouting. 415,564 boys and girls are in Scouts BSA. It goes on to list the number of men and women in venturing, sea scouting, and exploring. There are 42,822 scouting units that represent partnerships and collaborations with local businesses and community organizations. Almost 2 million adventures, Cub Scout adventures, were completed last year, Gina, and 1.3 million merit badges were earned. These are the kind of things that are in the report to the nation that, again, we present to Congress to basically just say, hey, we're here, we're doing our thing, we appreciate your support, and Congress says, thank you for what you do, and it goes officially in the congressional record. So, in the congressional record of everything that's talked about in Congress, balancing the budget, right? All these things like that, all these really important issues in the congressional record will be the 2023 report to the nation. You see it on your screen right here. It will be officially entered into the record forever, and it will be available, as part of public records for all time. It's kind of cool.
It is cool, and it's cool to have seen like how the event, appears over the years. In some ways, it's evolved and it's changed. Obviously, the pandemic made things a little bit different. But what's also interesting is like it's a lot of similarities from year to year. Like you can always see the wreath laying, and you always see like a different group of scouts, but you see that they're building like a similar camaraderie as in years past. I feel like all these photos are always gold, and because they're wearing the uniforms, it's kind of like they're timeless.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned, it's kind of changed and evolved over the years. They did a virtual one a couple of years ago during the height of the pandemic, but they carried on, and it's really cool to see them back to doing an in-person event this year. Part of the great experience, I think, is for 15 scouts who maybe they met each other once or twice at a camp or something like that, but they certainly have never attended something like this before. Very, very cool to see them come together and bond. Like I said, it's always cool when you put scouts together, when you put, they're strangers, but they're all part of the scouting program. So they have a very, very common baseline, right? There are very basic things that they're all interested in. And without fail, they always get along great. It's really, really cool to see.
One other thing, when you look at these group photos, you always end up using them a lot, but it's like a snapshot of what Boy Scouts of America is. It's all of our programs. It's all of our ages. It's all of it just the makeup of who actually, is behind our organization. And I really just love seeing these kids, all standing next to each other. I think behind the scenes, Brian's got a picture queued up. I mean, it's beautiful. That's our organization.
Yes, very much. It looks like, by the way, thank you guys for watching. It looks like Sophie's parent is watching. Very, very cool. We appreciate that. Thank you for tuning in. And I want to address real quick, Lizette has a good question. Do you know how many service hours? Lizette, I do. I've got that answer right now. It says, excuse me, Gina, in the report to the nation, it says, each scout takes an oath to help other people at all times, and they strive to do a good turn daily. By doing their part to care for their families, neighbors, and communities, scouts learn respect, character, leadership, and so much more. In 2022 alone, scouts recorded almost 7 million hours of service to the nation. So Lizette points out correctly, it's important for individual units to report their service hours. That's how they get logged for reports such as this very one right here. Thank you, Lizette.
And it's also important to point out when we were reading that, or if you're looking at different stats, maybe on Aaron on Scouting, for instance, we're going to be talking about 2022 because 2022 is over, so we can record that data. In 2024, we report on 2023. So if you're confused, that's what's happening. Check out blog.scoutingmagazine.org. I do believe it's Aaron's most recent post. You can keep up with Report to the Nation. There was a post today, and I believe there will be others throughout the week.
Yes, and there will actually be a new post here in just a few hours. Gina, I got to talk to a couple of our handful of the scouts who participated in the wreath laying. You mentioned the wreath laying, Gina. Our friend Michael Roytek, our photographer, was nice enough to get a few of them on the phone, and I talked to them about the experience of participating in such an iconic ceremony, right? I think we've all seen the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier and the guard that rotates around and the laying of the wreath. It's really, really cool that they got to participate in that, and it clearly affected them profoundly, and they were all very candid and upfront with me about what it meant to them. So you can look for a blog post to go up about that here in just a few more hours, actually, Gina, and it'll be in your, if you don't already subscribe to the Aaron on Scouting email, I encourage you to do so. It'll be in that one tomorrow morning.
Aaron, off the top of your head, do you remember when the federal charter was created for the Boy Scouts of America?
Off the top of my head, wasn't it right around June 15th, 1916, I think?
That sounds right. But I'm looking at your post, and I really like you have an excerpt from the federal charter. And I imagine we don't use it a whole lot now because it's talking about boys specifically. Because if we think of it at the time, of course, Boy Scouts was boys back then. We're talking about the beginning of last century. But I'm going to read this excerpt if you think that's okay.
Yes, do. And I have something to say about that after you read it. Go ahead. You read it first.
Perfect. So I'm imagining this was written sometime in 1916, maybe 1915. The purpose of the corporation shall be to promote, through organization and cooperation with other agencies, the ability of boys to do things for themselves and others, to train them in scoutcraft, and to teach them patriotism, courage, self-reliance, and kindred virtues using the methods which are now in common use by Boy Scouts.
Yes, and so when I put that in my blog post, my editor asked me, can we update this? Does the charter get updated? And I think it's important to note that the charter only exists in its original form. It is not something that's updated every year. This is the original charter that was put into effect, like we said, on June 15th, signed into a law by President Woodrow Wilson. And it's the same charter that we have lived in for now 107 years. So yeah, the language is 107 years old language, right? It only mentions boys. It doesn't mention girls. But to me, that's kind of part of the novelty, right? That's still the same charter that was entered into law in 1916.
Right. And it's only a little bit dated. I mean, it just needs "and girls." And otherwise, it's amazing to see that our organization is true to its. Sometimes you look back at an organization's intent and it's like, it's changed. It's not quite like that. That doesn't really suit 2023. Not us. I mean, that's exactly what we do today.
It's exactly right, Gina. It's pretty remarkable how the mission really hasn't changed hardly at all. Another thing that I think, and I used to kind of wonder this, what does it mean to get a charter from Congress? Like, can anybody just do that? It's interesting maybe to mention a few other organizations that also got similar charters, the Red Cross. It was called the American National Red Cross at the time. It's now just called the American Red Cross. They were chartered in 1905. The American Legion was chartered in 1919. Girl Scouts were chartered in 1950. Big Brothers, Big Sisters of America. My wife actually used to work for Big Brothers, Big Sisters. They were chartered in 1958. Boys and Girls Club in 1956. And interestingly enough, Gina, Little League Baseball, the official Little League Baseball Incorporated, was chartered in 1964. So those are all really iconic American institutions, right? Known for service to kids. And it's kind of cool that the Boy Scouts of America is right in there.
Absolutely. Well, Aaron, this was I think it's fair to say it was my favorite Trek on Tuesday of
Well,
the year.
yeah, special thanks again to Michael Roytek for making that live video happen, guys. They are really busy up there. So I've been exchanging text messages and voicemails and phone calls with Michael all weekend. And he's like, well, our meeting with Senator Manchin's run a little bit late. We got to go meet with Senator Sessions early. And we're meeting with the president of Korea, whatever it is, and it's constantly changing. They were nice enough to make just 10 or 15 minutes of time or so today to talk to us live. What a cool shot of them standing there on the street with the Capitol building behind them. Very, very cool.
If you just tuned in after the show goes live, rewind it, because at the top of the show, we had Eagle Scouts, Sophie Shell, and James Harris on with us live, which we've never gotten to do. I mean, live access with a report to the nation delegates. And we just talked a little bit about their experience so far this week and what they're going to be doing tomorrow. So you do not want to miss this.
It's a very important week for the BSA. It's an important week for those 15 young men and women there. Like we said, representatives from all of the BSA's programs are there. Very, very cool. It's cool that we got to be a part of it live, even for just 30 minutes today. Right, Gina?
Totally agree. Well, Aaron, we will be back. You will be back live on Friday for Cub Chat Live at 2 p.m. Central. It's going to be another important episode, so everybody be sure to tune in.
Tune into Cub Chat Live, and behind the scenes, Brian is telling us right now, if you're interested, don't sign off yet. When Gina and I leave, Brian is going to show some of Michael's photos on the screen here. So we will say goodbye. Stay tuned. And if you're interested in seeing photos from our professional photographer who's with him, he's done a great job there. And again, tune in to the blog for more updates throughout the rest of the week. Good job, Gina. Thank you again to our friends in Washington, D.C. for joining us. See everybody later. Bye, everybody.